Welcome back, everybody, to the next episode of Parkitect campaign. I believe this is number 7, and in this episode, we are going to be tackling our Nova Labs. And the description for this says, once the set of a famous sci-fi movie, the production company that owns it has put it up for sale. This alien landscape would make a stellar park that transports, same thing, visitors to the new world. So the scenario is to have an experience rating of 70%, which I really haven't looked at how to get experience. Have at least 500 guests in your park, which is a step up from the Mystic Oasis, which was last episode. And the optional goals is to have 250 guests in your park. And I'm guessing since a couple have had those goals, they give you something usually. So that's going to unlock something for us. And then our second optional is to have it done by August year 2. So why don't we load into this and see what we got brewing here. Alright, so we'll click out of this. And we got some nice red. It kind of looks western almost. I don't know which side is the inside of the park. This is the inside of the park, I believe. So they spawn in here at this little kind of teleportation, I guess, and then you go through our little hub, and then you load into this big area here. So, what rides do we have? And I take it one of these buildings is going to be our depot as well. So, actually, why don't we check that right now, just so we know. Hide scenery. Yeah, depot is in here. So, what rides do we have? We have bumper cars, the gentle monorail, and a motion simulator. And then we have a gravitron and a topspin. So for sure we're going to use the gravitron and the motion simulators. And then we have a powered coaster, which I believe is the launched coaster. We have a spinning coaster and we have a steel coaster. So no need to research roller coasters really. We might actually put in all 3 to try and get to 500 guests quick. Make sure we're going to probably place one right off the bat just so we can get some money. Nothing transport and nothing water. So we got a good load up of roller coasters. We're going to need to research some regular rides though. And then our shops, we have cash machine, info, toilets, soft drink, umbrellas, and vending machine. I don't know why we would need umbrellas if it's in space. I don't think it rains in space. I guess we'll have to see that. But without further ado, let's get into the time lapse of Nova Labs. The first ride that we are placing in this scenario is the all-trustworthy motion simulator, and the reason why I say it this way is because of how much money it has brought in and how much people the line can hold. And this ride, actually, in this scenario, did not work out for me. For some reason, the line just wasn't getting long, and I guess that might have been because of the population, because near the mid-course, it will start to get a bigger line, but man, was I kind of disappointed in this. It really wasn't getting a line. It wasn't bringing in as much money as I thought it was going to bring in, or at least as much as I wanted it to bring in. And another problem I had with this ride was that pipe going through. You can't delete those since it's part of the beginning scenario pieces, so you can't get rid of any of those pieces, and that's kind of sad. But I had to do that, which kind of made me use a ramp, and I didn't like that either. But the ride itself will go okay. It's not too good. It's not too bad. And the color scheme for it, I actually really like. It's a blue, like a really light blue that really accents with the red, and then a kind of steel metal. And I think it all works cohesively. And the red is actually going to be used a lot, and then the color scheme for the rides are going to be the same, unlike the gravitron over there that's red right now. That will get changed later on. But mentioning other rides right now, we have the gravitron, which I placed, and we're working on the gentle monorail. And this is actually the first time I put one in, and it actually kind of works out pretty good. It goes around this huge rock structure here, and I really like how this turned out. It gets a good amount of work in. It makes a good amount of money. It's nothing too crazy. It's more for the kids, and I know these are more kind of kiddie rides, so it's just kind of a big circle. That's about it. And those are the beginning three rides that we have. So that nothing too crazy. And as I said, the all of the stations and buildings are going to be mainly red. I may change it up once in a while with maybe some wood or something or some glass, which you'll see near the end as well. But for right now, it's just going to be the red. And what I don't think it actually gets too overpowering until maybe the end, which you'll see near the mid course. And I don't know if it's going to be too overpowering once we pass that. But this scenario actually is taking a long time to make, so you can actually tell that by the length of this video. It's a good amount. It's a good length video, and that's kind of different to me since none of the videos have actually been this long so far. Um, the mid course is around like 16-minute mark, and usually it's around the 10. So we got a lot of time lapse going into this first half, and usually the first half is shorter. So I think the first half in this one's going to be longer. But anyway, we're going in with our very first coaster, and I decided to make this the uh, steel coaster, the one with the option of a chain lift or a launch. And I decided to do a chain lift for this actually. And originally, I wanted it to do a helix into a launch and then do some sort of like top hat element, and I really just couldn't get it to work. So I just went with the chain lift, and then I did a cool layout. It's almost like a hypercoaster layout almost, and so it has the curved drop right next to the park boundaries, and it's going to basically follow the park boundaries on this side. And then it does a half helix almost into a mid-course brake run. And this was me actually trying to put in a cutback area where the train actually inverted, and I didn't really like that. So I just did a half helix and then into a brake run, and then the rest of it is going to be some airtime and some helixes as well. And this is actually going to be a good amount of time trying to figure out this area. And the coasters are actually going to take a good amount of time since the kind of area that we're trying to work with is kind of smaller than what what I'm used to. So there's a helix after the mid-course brake run, and then there's an airtime hill into some brakes, and then it goes over the path. So this is not going to stay an orange track. I really didn't pay much close of attention to colors until we got a little bit farther down the road. So I was going to run three trains on this actually, but that would cause the one of the trains to be stopped on the mid-course brake run, and I really didn't like that, so I just went with two. And the coaster really isn't all that popular, so there's no need for it to be humongously fast in operations anyway. So that's basically our coaster there. We're just doing some scenery and we're trying to make our station, which is also a red building. So this one, following the scheme with any other of the buildings that we have, this one is actually different though, since it combines the curved walls with the flat walls. So it's a bit different. Everything is a bit different, but they all have the intertwined theme of this kind of Mars space theme. So next we are gonna be kind of just doing a bit of theming, and we're gonna be doing some more rides. We're gonna put a lot of rides in here. This is easily gonna be the biggest park that we have, and you actually saw that I put down the top spin, or yeah, I believe it's the top spin, and that is our next ride that we're going to be working on. This one's not going to be too crazy. We will come back to this probably after the mid-course break run, since we're going to actually focus on the other side of the park. But here's me just kind of going through the feedback of the guests, and I actually forgot to put in benches, lighting, and trash bins, and that's actually going to be pretty bad right before or actually throughout. And right here, I actually decided to put in some sort of food and drink shop based on people's suggestions. So I remembered to put in a staff building. So I dig into the ground and next to our depot and put it right there. And then we have a drink shop and a restroom shop. And for some reason, the game didn't give me a food, like a burger stand or hot dog stand. So I'm going to have to research that. And we'll talk about that later on when we get to the mid course as well. But that building is going to be red as well, if you haven't guessed already. So we are basically going to be working on this for a little while, and it actually has a cool element with the monorail where it actually goes through a little bit of a tunnel through this. And I think that just kind of intertwines the park a little bit more, and that's why I like that monorail a lot. And actually, we just had a kind of quick cut there, and some research had been done. So I got this ride, which is, I don't really actually know what it's. Oh, it's a turbine or something like that in game. But I didn't want to do anything too crazy for this queue, so I just kind of made it underground and then was done with that. And then I had this crazy idea to expand this glass greenhouse area and make it part of the cover for the Gravitron queue. And I saw, if you can see right there, that the queue is full, so I decided to expand the queue anyway. So we're just making another glass greenhouse area, and the queue's gonna be in that with some plants. I really like how this came out. It actually kind of breaks the red theme up a little bit, kind of giving it some other parts. Even though it's still red, it's not consistent. There's more of a break. So that's another designer element there. And then putting in all of these half poles, I didn't know why they were half. I was wondering if they actually had full poles, and I just never looked for them, so I just used the half poles. But it's okay. And then we're going to be working on this for a little while, trying to actually find out what plants we were using. And then you just saw that, if you guys caught that in the right corner of the screen, we hit our halfway mark, which was the 250 guess mark. And we got a little bit more time lapse to go. We're going to actually get past halfway by a good amount. And here's me trying to change up the queue and put in some theming there. But that actually gave me $6,000, which is a lot of money, and it was needed since I was actually really or pretty low speaking money wise. But we're trying to replicate what's in the other greenhouse area and trying to make them look like they were meant to be together, which they are. And finally, you can see now that we have a good amount of guests that the motion simulator is finally booming. So I kind of raised the price on that, and that's practically what we're going to be doing there. And then I decided that I needed to put some trash cans in, and you can see all of the kind of trash on the ground. So I hired like 5 janitors and put like 20 trash cans in. And then we're going to go in with our second coaster for this part of the time lapse, which is this wild mouse coaster. Or not wild mouse, the spinning coaster. So I went with a spinning spiral lift hill, the same as the dragon coaster in last episode, the Coral Caldera, or not Coral Caldera, Mystic Oasis with the junior coaster. And then basically through the rest of this layout, it's going to be basically spirals, I guess, and or helixes, if you want to call them that. This layout is pretty custom, and it took me a long time to make this coaster, and the reason for that is being the space that I wanted to put it in. You can see that I'm just trying to work it into this area right here next to this turbine ride, and I actually liked where I was going, what I'm gonna about to do after I delete this area right here that I'm working on, but it just really wasn't working with the space, so I had to do something different, which I'm okay with the layout. I don't like the beginning of the coaster after I have to change it all, but it works. I only have 2 trains running on it eventually, and but it really doesn't need it since the queue actually doesn't get that full. And actually, I like this ride how it is a lot. But this is the exit that I'm trying to show you guys right now, how it kind of makes almost a figure eight almost. And the reason why I couldn't place it is, one, the track was too close together on the kind of round area, which is about to happen, and then it like right there, and then looping it back around to the station, it was too close to our turbine ride. So that idea had to get scratched. And actually, if you saw there, the turbine ride gets pretty darn packed. So that is a good ride to have as well in this scenario. So this is the end solution that I came up with. We're gonna have to do a lot of changes to the ride itself, but I did this kind of big turn, I guess, sweeping turn into some brakes, and then I had tried to loop it back around in the station, but of course the game wouldn't let me be that easy. So I had to actually remake the station area and remake my turn into the lift hill. So now the station is on this side right after the brakes, and there's a big kind of pre-lift section where the coaster just kind of glides around the track. Um, Surprisingly, the coaster doesn't get stuck on the gliding area, but that is a-okay if it doesn't get stuck and if people like it. So now we're going on to this queue. It's a pretty big queue, and then everything's going to be pretty basic for this ride. I didn't want to make it too elaborate. Um, and then for this ride, I actually went with the curved trains, and I actually put two trains on it, which is different than the last spinning coaster I did, which was a long time ago. But for the queue, we just put in these like pendulum, not pendulum, oh my gosh, patio almost covers. I forgot what they're called right now. And then we put in a bunch of fencing to make sure people don't get hit by some coaster or whatever. And then we actually just kind of made this whole area in fence, just kind of fencing everything off. And then we're actually going to be doing some more going back over here, trying to fix this area. And this is where I noticed that I don't have the meat or some sort of food shop. So we started researching that in a second, and hopefully we'll go and do that after the mid course, which is coming up in a few seconds. So we're gonna make this station really quick, and then it's off to our mid course, and then I'll ride the both coasters in that, and we will talk about what's gonna be coming next, and look at the park as a whole. So the station right here, nothing too crazy, just some red building, I guess, and with some blue accents. But anyway, it is time to go to the mid course, so see ya there. Alright, so I just took a look at our goals before starting this right here, and I'm kind of disappointed in myself. Um, you know that we have to have 500 guests in this park and a experience rating of 70%. So I'm at 50% and I have 300 guests. So that is pretty good. And then our optional goal is 250 guests in your park, which we have. So we got that. And our other non-optional goal is to have it done by August a year two. I thought that we had till year three, and it is year two of August. I think the year three came from the next scenario, or the scenario we got in the last episode, and sadly, I wasn't paying attention to that. So we're not going to be able to get the golden button, and I'm kind of disappointed in myself. I'm slapping myself in the face for that. But now I'm going to go all out on this, get it done with, and we're doing really good right now. I think the experience rating is based on time in the park or something. I don't know exactly how to do that, so I might look into that just a little bit more. But looking at the park overall, it is doing very well. The red is getting a little bit overpowering, so I might switch it up a little bit, put in some more blues and maybe actually some wood. Maybe come back and do like maybe a wood shack here. And we'll talk about this little restroom stall area over here in a second. But looking at our rides, the lines are actually pretty good. Our motion simulators aren't doing too bad. Medium sized lines. And if we turn off scenery, since most of this is under scenery and underground actually, our turbine is actually humongous queue. It's full, so I'm going to raise that price just a little bit more. Our Gravitron, good queue. Power motion simulators, good queue. This ride, the Gentle Monorail, it has a really good queue, so I'm actually gonna. It's basically full, so I'm gonna raise that as well. And then our top spin gets a queue and then deletes it because it has a good capacity. And then our coaster is just pumping people out every 2 seconds. So that we're gonna leave that how it is. And our Wild Mouse coaster is pumping as well. So we'll ride both of those in 1 second. But looking back to what I said in earlier, our little shack here, we have our drink stall, we have a restroom stall, which I moved from this area because I could not find, well, actually, because we don't have our burger shop or something. So we're researching that right now, and we're about halfway through with that. So we're actually moved this over in this corner, and I actually might do a wooden shack just to kind of break it up, break the red up a little bit. And then that's practically it for what is happening right now. We'll ride the rides in a second, but the plan for moving on, the plan of attack that we have, or at least I have, We got a 4D cinema since I was researching like crazy. So I think that since this is a big footprint, I'm gonna put this somewhere over here, kind of fill in this area. And then I have bumper cars and observation tower. I don't know what I'm gonna do with those yet. And I got the Enterprise ride, which if you guys have seen Coral Caldera, this was a money maker. It was insanely good. So I'm gonna put this somewhere over here. And the goal is to basically wrap the park around here and finish it off. So we're more than halfway there people wise, and experience will just come. So why don't we ride our roller coaster over here? Oh, I need to fix this. I didn't even notice that. Maybe I'll just leave it. I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna ride this once we get dispatched in a second. We can kind of see it through our little nook hole. They just locked and we're ready to roll. Actually, let's click X so we can get rid of that. And we're running full trains on this, which is pretty good since it has a good capacity and pretty good operations. So nothing too crazy with the lift hill, and we got a kind of turning drop and good G-forces on that, good airtime, and then a good helix-ish into a brake run, and then our actual helix into a really good ejector airtime, and then into the brakes. So actually that brake run is really smooth, surprisingly. But now let's move on to our spinning coaster. And this coaster actually was a really difficult to make, and I said that earlier actually. So why don't we speed this up, because this is going to take a good amount of time. Oh, actually we just got dispatched. So you can see that this is just super slow. It crawls, and that's why I really didn't like it. But I guess it's okay. And it slams on the brakes pretty good. It's actually pretty smooth though. So we got a spiral lift hill on this, which is more of a classic, I think it is, for this ride. Some have regular straight train lifts, but a lot of them have turning lifts. And then it just starts the layout. So it goes into its first drop and then kind of makes a big helix going into a small helix here. And you get good spinning actually, and then some airtime, and then into a tall turnaround over the queue, and then into the brakes, into the station. So that is that station, or that ride. Nothing else really to see in this park right now. What the plan is to move into this area. I'm really excited to move into this. I think we can get this done really fast compared to what we have done. I might have started or went a little bit farther than I should have before this mid-course, but that's okay. We are where we are, and that is perfectly fine. So why don't we head back to a time lapse where we are going to finish this park off. So before I tell you guys anything of what we have done in this time lapse or what we're about to do, I do want to mention one thing that I forgot to mention, which is the name for our steel coaster. I didn't name anything else in this park, but I thought it'd just kind of be cool, kind of almost shout out, like sneaky name for it. But I called it Space Chaser, and if you guys know what that is, or if you don't, that's okay. It is actually one of my previous projects that I did with Planet Coaster, and it is a launched coaster that has a sci-fi theme. So I just kind of was a cool reference, and I thought it was kind of sneaky. So just kind of put that in there. But we actually have put a 4D cinema in next to our steel coaster, and that was just kind of filling in that area a little bit more. I felt that area really didn't have much to offer. It was just that coaster, so I wanted something that would bring people over there more. We also got our burger stand. We put that in, and we also made our little shack for our restroom stall. And then we put in our Enterprise ride, which hopefully this is going to bring in a lot of money and guests. And then another researched ride I got was this observation tower, and this, I don't know how many people are gonna come in from that, or money. These are all rides that I really haven't used, well, not all of them, but the observation tower, the 4D cinema, So a couple of these rides I have not used before, so I don't know. The observation tower is actually a height varying ride, and this can go super high, which is pretty surprising. But then the final ride that we're going to put in over on this section of the park is going to be this bumper car ride, which kind of fills in this area quite nicely. Something covered with a bit different kind of theme feel to it. And I actually did some terrain varying stuff so that it would give a little bit more detail to it. So I put in some red walls for the dirt to not be avalanching onto people in the queue. So that is the last ride in that area. And you can see that our motion simulators are still working, or they're actually getting a lot more people than they were in the beginning. And we're still trying to bring in a bunch of stuff. So another thing that we're doing right here, we're extending our little building for the little tram um, right up our skyway. I really don't know what that's called, but I put in a restroom stall over there so that people would have restrooms to go all over the park instead of just that one spot, which was going to get pretty crowded eventually. Then we did some more detailing, nothing too crazy, and we're actually going to be placing one more ride in since I could not get to that 500 guest mark. And when I make this, it's actually you're actually gonna notice how unplanned this was because of the where it is and how constricted it is. But it does get us to our 500 guest mark. But that coaster, or I guess I gave it away. It's gonna be a coaster, and it's gonna be the powered coaster. So I originally didn't want to put this coaster into the park. I wanted to keep it with the spinning coaster and the steel coaster, but I had to do this just to get people in. And by this time, I was super low on money, so it's gonna be a lot like the mine train that we made in the Western Roundup, where I'm gonna be making it step by step every time I get enough money to build the piece. So this layout is not going to be too intense since it's a powered coaster. It can't be too crazy. So really, it's going to be kind of a sloped launch beginning, and then it's going to be just a bunch of helixes and stuff. Some of them are going to be really tight, and some of them are going to be more shaped and rounder. So I haven't ridden this actually while I was creating it, so I don't know how good it is. I just tried to create it really fast, really small, just to get us over that mark. This was really an unintended coaster that I really didn't want to make, so it was just kind of in that space. And right here, trying to loop it back to the coaster or the station is going to be a little bit of a challenge, as well as the queue. But as far as theming goes, this is actually not going to be too crazy of a coaster. It's going to have a station, and we're actually getting really close to the end of the time lapse and actually getting really close to the end of the scenario. But now we're actually going to try and figure out this queue, which gave me a lot of trouble. I was originally going to connect it to where the steel coaster entrance was, but there was no room, and then I wanted to put the exit where the entrance was as well, and there was no room for that either. So what we do is make a path next to the top spin and connect it to that, which really works out in the long run. It's just kind of an awkward path and awkward placing, which is kind of weird considering that this really wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. But it gets us to our ending mark, and we're gonna start on the station really quick, super quick, and you can see that we're getting our almost there, which means that we're super close, and that means that we're nearing the end of our time lapse. So we are gonna jump to the end or our ending scenario roundup thing, whatever you guys call it, after we finish the station off, and we're gonna ride these coaster and everything else. So I will be back with you guys in a couple of seconds when we're done with this. Alright, we have just hit our goal, and we are way off time-wise. Year 3 in November, which is was way more than a year actually over. So we didn't get all of our goals, but we at least completed the scenario. Looking at our park in a whole, what we have added in the second half, really nothing much. We have added our Enterprise ride, which is a crazy queue like normal, and it's always good to see that. So we can always increase that price, but there's no reason to. And we have a nice sky tower observation deck where people can see. It doesn't really get too crowded. I wonder if that's just because of the capacity, But then here we have our bumper cars, which with the awesome tune that's coming with them, and not really a big queue for that as well. And then what finally, oh actually, then we also have our 4D cinema, which it has a good queue as well, but it's just because it takes a while for the operations. And then what finally pushed us off of our brink, or our edge, I don't know what you would call it, which pushed us over the 500 mark, which is this powered coaster, and we'll actually give this a ride. But I only put one train on this, and it has 2 cycles, I guess. I don't know for sure, but this is kind of it just going around. And something that I didn't do that I said I was gonna do in the mid-course brake run, or the mid-course, was putting in some wooden areas, but I figured this area has more blue in it than it does red, so it kind of balances it out. But let's get on to this coaster. We can go in close, and oh yeah, the closer we get, the less we hear the bumper cars, although the bumper cars has an amazing tune to it. So we just gotta wait for this, and it just kind of brings us along. There's nothing too crazy about this. This is more of a family coaster, and it's a little bit jerky in areas, I guess. It's not the smoothest, and there might be a head chopper there as well. But it goes around this layout twice. I don't know if I can change that, but it works for the coaster since it's not that popular, or it doesn't seem to be that popular. But money-wise in this park, we're doing pretty good. We got around $3,000 right now, and we got a good population right now, 527 guests currently. So why don't we save this after we zoom out just a little bit, and if we look back to our motion simulator, it's crazy queue again. But we can save this and go to our main screen and see what happens there. So we get our little red space center, if you want to call that, and we completed Nova Labs. So where does this gonna lead us to next? Let's see. Oh, it also has a little rocket ship. That's cool. Oh, this one's taking us right across the lake or river or sea. And we have Adventure Island. This small island park with a unique observation tower wants to attract more guests, but it's cold and wet climate. Ooh. Okay, so the scenario goals is to have 500 guests and a happiness rating of 80% and complete by December of year 2, which is the optional goal. Archipelago Adventures is this one over here, so we're gonna have to choose between these two. And this one says a 70% experience rating, no loan debt, operating profit of $1,500, and then 3 optional goals, which are gonna help me along the way. So I believe we're gonna do Archipelago Adventures next because that is the one that we got first. So I'll see you guys in the next scenario of Parkitect. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this, but until then, thanks for watching everybody and have a great day.